So we're trying to figure a way around Cape Coral. Now, obviously we have GPS, which makes it pretty easy. But if you look at our map, it's like, how do I figure out an address in Cape Coral? Because Cape Coral has 4 different quadrants. We have the southeast, the southwest, the northwest, and the northeast. So where do you figure out where a property's at? Well, let me just point out there are specific rows that are the dividing line. So let me show you first of all what divides the southeast from the southwest, or basically the east side of Cape Coral from the west side of Cape Coral. And if I zoom in on this map here, our dividing line is actually Santa Barbara Boulevard, and I'll show you that right here. So if I run this red line all the way down through here, this is a dividing line. So this is going to be east, and this is going to be south. So anything has a southeast address or the northeast address, you know, is going on the right side of Santa Barbara. Anything in the northwest or in the southwest is going to be on the western side of Santa Barbara Boulevard. So that's one of the designations. But then you have northwest and northeast. Now a lot of people generally think, because a lot of this is above this road, that Pine Island Road, which is this road right here, goes out to Pine Island, is the separation between the north and the south. Well, that's not the case. That's actually wrong, because there are properties that exist north of Pine Island Road that are actually in the southwest. Sounds complicated. Okay, and it is a little bit, but actually makes sense once you see what that dividing line is. If you look on the map here, the dividing line is Hancock Bridge Parkway. So basically anything north of this is going to have a north address. Anything that is south of that is going to have south address. So southeast, southwest is going to be south of Hancock Bridge. Anything that with a northwest or a northeast is going to be above Hancock Bridge. So like this area right here, for example, is a section of northeast Cape Coral that has city water and sewer, whereas pretty much everything right here in Cape Coral in the northeast section above Pine Island Road does not have city water and sewer. It's on well and septic. However, that's about to change in this area right here, particularly in the next couple of years as well. So this throws people off as this area right in here, because even though this is above Pine Island Road right here, you would think this must have a northern address. Well, it doesn't, because the dividing line right here, this is actually south. So anything in this area right here other than Mount Lachey Isles will have a southwest address. So if I zoom in on that, you'll be able to see that. So you see these have a southwest address. Anything above this starts to have a northwest address. The other thing you have to consider in mind too, that Cape Coral has 4 different street designations. There is another designation where you have specific street names. They could either be gated or generally be in the Yacht Club area, which is in the way southeast part of Cape Coral, which if I zoom in and if I show you, is going to be this area right here. Let me show you this again. So this area through here is the Yacht Club area. This is where named streets. Looks a bit of a mess, sorry, but it gives you an idea. So basically, as I said, this area here, the streets are named. Originally the intention was for all the Cape Coral to be named, but they realized that it got kind of complicated with the canals. If you're going to go north on Santa Barbara Boulevard, turn right on Trident, go left on Sunnybrook, then right on Elm Court, it was just too complicated. But the system they have right now is still somewhat complicated as well, particularly if you're trying to figure your way around. Like for example, on the street that I have lived on, I lived in Northeast Cape, I lived in Southwest, I lived in Southeast. I've owned multiple property, I own a couple of properties right now in the area. And I've had people knock at my door thinking that this is where the party was at. It was actually the street behind me. I've had deliveries of neighbors where I've got their parcels and they've got mine, because we have the same street, we have the same number, but the street address is different. And what throws that off is that we have street and terrace. Now street and terrace, they will run north and south, okay? Anything that ends with an avenue and a place will run east and west. So if I show you again right here, I'll just pick out a couple of locations. Let me square this off. So let's box this off right here, and you'll see what I mean. So this is terrace, this is street, this is terrace. So again, these are like north and south. And then you've got place and you've got avenue, and these will run east and west. So depending on what the end of the street is, will give you an idea if it's running north or south of that. So, but there are other ways also too to figure out where a street is, and the street numbers will do that. Now let me just illustrate right here. I'll give you an idea if I zoom out on this. Okay, so let's take a look at this street here, Southeast 33rd Terrace. One thing that you do notice, that this street basically pretty much, until it moved up here, runs the whole length of Cape Coral, and then you got streets that intersect that, you got canals that do that, so you can't actually drive just on Southeast 33rd Street and just keep going. You just can't do that because you've got too much stuff, you have too many things in the way. But how do you figure out an address? I'm going to give you an example how you would figure that out. So let's say we're looking for 1435 Southeast 35th Street. Now the first thing we know, this is a southeast address, so we know that on Santa Barbara, so if I show you again here, that we know that it is going to be east of this road, because it's the southeast address. Now we also know that it ends in a street, so I said a street we know is also going to run north and south. So if I click this off real quick, so let's look for Southeast 35th Street. Okay, let's zoom in. So I've got it here. So this is Southeast 35th Street. Now as I zoom on in this, you'll notice that we have the numbers of properties here, like 1204, 1208, 1212, 1216. This is the corresponding street that connects with that. So for example, let's say I was looking for 1435 Southeast 35th Street. Okay, so I look for the 1400 block, which is this one right here, and if I move across this, I will find on Southeast 35th Street, I should get 1435, which I have right here. So this particular one right here, if I show it, where X marks a spot, this is 1435 Southeast 35th Street. So that's how I've been identified, because it's between 14th, between 15th, so it's going to fall on this block. So, but not all street numbers will have 4 numbers in them, sometimes it will have 3. Another thing to consider too, and this is probably going to complicate a little bit further, but I'll just give you some other explanation as well. So again, if we take this Santa Barbara street, what you notice is that we have streets that will go, so if I go this here, we'll show this is First Avenue, First Place, Second, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth. So going up from Santa Barbara, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 going towards the river. And then on the west side of Santa Barbara, we have the same thing as well. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going basically on the western side of Cape Coral, going out towards Mount Lachey, Pine Island, Sanibel. So when you're dealing with a southeast, southwest address, that will generally give you a clue as to where it is. The other thing to keep in mind, and this might even sound more confusing that I mention this, but it's something I need to make you aware of as well. As I said before, that Hancock Bridge Parker, which is this road right here, divides basically the north from the south. Okay, so everything above this is north, everything below this, like I got right here, is south. However, the numbers also will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on south, and they'll do the same north. So again, if we look at this map right here, if we start with Santa Barbara, you'll notice that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that will keep going south. Now, the furthest south we can pretty much go in Cape Coral is going to be right here, this street, 59th. So there's nothing that's going to be beyond 59th. It just doesn't exist going on the southern direction. On the northern direction, you'll find the same thing again as well. But again, as I said, Hancock Bridge is the dividing line, and the furthest north you're going to be able to go is Northwest 48th Terrace, which you see right here. So that's as far north as you can go on the northwest side of Cape Coral. So again, all that sounds fairly complicated, and so GPS kind of helps a lot. But once in a while GPS might get it wrong as well. But occasionally you may be looking at a map trying to get a general idea where an address is, and there is a way to figure it out, just got to think about it. So I gave an example of a southeast address. Let me give you another one. Let me give you a southwest one. This time we're going to look for a southwest 52nd lane. So I know as it's 52nd lane, it's going to be quite a bit south. I mentioned 59th is about as far south as you can go. So 52nd is going to be pretty far south in Cape Coral. So if I zoom on this map, I'm looking for southwest 52nd lane. So here's 53rd Terrace, 52nd Street, southwest 50th lane. Okay, so this is 52nd lane that you can see right here. It's not exactly a true straight line, but that's a street I'm looking for. Now, I'm also said I'm looking for a specific address. I got 2210 down, so I'm looking for the opposing cross street, which looks to me this is 22nd. So I'm probably going to be looking in this general area right here. So if I zoom in here, I want 2210, which happens to be a vacant lot. So it is this one right here. So this is 2210 southwest 52nd lane. This is where 52nd comes in right here. This is where 22nd, 21st is. So I know I'm going to fall in this block right here, and X marks the spot. Now on some of these streets you're going to have 3 numbers. So again, if I was looking, say, for 123 southwest 52nd lane, what I'm going to look for is where would that start at. Now, as I said, Santa Barbara is the starting point. So if I go back towards Santa Barbara, which I've got to go over a ways here. This is 11th, 8th, okay, 3rd, 1st. Okay, so basically, if I was looking for southwest 52nd lane again, as I mentioned, the lane looks like it doesn't run all the way through on this one, but it would generally, if that street does exist and it was like, for example, 178 southwest 52nd lane, it would generally be in this neighborhood. Now if I have 170 southwest 52nd street, this is number 1 which crosses it. Here's 52nd street, so it's going to be here. So that's another one. Let me give you another example. If we're going to go look into the northwest, I wrote some numbers down. So that's why I keep jotting down some numbers. I've got. Now I'm going to look for Northwest 39th Street. Okay, so I'm going to look for 39th Street, which is right here. So I know my first 2 numbers on this one are 4200. Now it looks like I'm already in the 4200 block, which I am. I'm looking for 4212. So 14912. Okay, so here it is right here. So in this particular instance, if I mark it, it's right here. So this is 4212 Northwest 39th Street. Here's 39th Street, here's 42nd. So this is across a main road, so X marks the spot where that will be, that one. Now obviously if it's a place, we're going to have to look at a property that's running north and south. And let me do one more. I picked up a northeast one. I did a different street. This one's running north and south. This time we're going to go with a northeast section. So again, I know this is going to be on the east side of Santa Barbara. I also know on this point I'm above Pine Island Road on this one, and I think I'm anyway. So I look for, let's see, what is it again? Northeast First Place. So 27th Northeast First Place. Okay, here's Avenue 16th, 13th, 8th, Northeast First Place. So here's First Place right here, but I'm looking for 2705. Okay, so 2705 Northeast First Place is going to be in this neck of the woods right here, 2705, 2707, which is actually, if I mark it again on this one, is this one right here. So here's 27th, here's Northeast First. So I know that the property I'm looking for is going to be in that general area. So is it confusing? Yes, unfortunately. But can you figure your way around? Yes, you can. But it is complicated. But that gives you an idea of how Cape Coral works, because Cape Coral is the second largest city by land mass in the entire state of Florida. It is very large. We have about 220,000 people living here right now. Fully built out, you're probably looking at about 450, 500,000. So when you drive around, I'll just show you in here. You'll find, particularly if we go into the northwest and northeast, as this map will show, you'll see there's a lot of vacant land still. You can see all that. And unfortunately, you see a fair amount of blue tops here. This is from Hurricane Ian. A lot of these have since been repaired because obviously Google Maps doesn't update its map constantly. It probably does it every couple months or whatever. But if I go into the southeast section, for example, if I go down in the Yacht Club area, you'll find there's not as many vacant lots. You pretty much find it's pretty well built out. The same also in the southwest, like this area through here, though you still do obviously find there's some vacant lots. And then if we go way up into the northwest part of Cape Coral, if I go way north, you can see here there aren't many homes up here at all. But this area continues to expand. Like here's a new house right here being built, another one just over here. So the area is always expanding, always growing, new developments going in. It just pretty much never stops. It's always going forwards. So that hopefully helps you understand how you can figure out address. But basically the easy thing is to use GPS. So if you have GPS in your car, use that. It's a whole lot simpler. But if you want to have the fun thing of trying to figure out how to get to address on your own, just look at the numbers that you've got. So if it's a southeast address, it's going to be on the east side of Santa Barbara. If it's a southwest address, it's going to be on the west side of Santa Barbara. If you're a northwest address, you're going to be basically north of Hancock Bridge, but on the western side of Santa Barbara. If you're on a northeast address, you're going to be north of Hancock Bridge, but on the east side of Santa Barbara. And as I said too, that if you have a northeast, northwest address, the further north you are going with that number is basically taking the further away you are from the river, basically, if we're going Santa Bella bottom area. In the southeast, southwest, the higher the number is going south, then the closer to the river you get. You also have to consider your crossroads as well are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 either way. So that just gives you an idea. So hopefully you find that interesting and didn't like kind of blow your mind like, wow, this is complicated, but it does make sense. Believe me, it does.